right. Let's talk about how right-wing Nazis, white nationalists, and racists are fine people. If you follow the political sphere, and I do my best to stay away from it, but there are so many persuasion lessons when it comes to politics and the news media and so on that I just can't keep my head or my hands away from it. Way back in 2017, that's almost 9 years ago, or that is 9 years ago actually, to this very day, or not to this very day, but this year. This year it'll be 9 years since this happened. There was a right wing political rally. It included elements of some Nazis and racists and white supremacists and so on, and they united together and they held a rally. There were protesters out there who wanted to stop the rally. I think they got in skirmishes with the participants of the rally. The police were involved, and there was a lot of brawl, a lot of chaos and so on. People were injured and hurt. I think even somebody got killed, but I can't exactly remember correctly. Anyway, so then President Trump, just as now, was asked to make a statement or a comment on this rally, this atrocious rally, the Nazi rally. And he says something along the lines of, in typical Trump fashion, that there's a lot of fine people. There's a lot of fine people on both the left and the right. Some such. And this caused outrage, right? Because people were furious. They're like, is the president really saying that these Nazis are fine people? Did he just say that Nazis are fine people? He said that there were fine people on the right and on the left, or some such. And that's true. And so the news media ran with that narrative. And I think this story is being repeated to this very day, namely that Trump called the Nazis fine people. It's known as the fine people of Charlottesville hoax because the rally took place in Charlottesville, Virginia. And it was later revealed that it was a hoax. Because here's what happened. Trump said these statements, that there was a lot of fine people on both the left and the right side of the political spectrum, or some such. But then he was later on asked to clarify his statements, especially in this regard, because we're talking about Nazis and white nationalists here. And when he was asked to clarify his statements, he said something along the lines of, I'm not talking about the Nazis and the white nationalists. They should be condemned totally, or some such. In other words, he distanced himself away from the Nazis and the white supremacists, which was exactly the point. But the news media chose to disregard that statement because it didn't fit their narrative, because now it didn't make Trump look so bad. So, do you see what they're doing with respect to persuasion? They're persuading an entire people to think that Trump's bad because he said something, or he said something in a kind of haphazardly, half-hearted way, which can be interpreted as very, very provocative. And, also inflammatory, rather. But then, when Trump's asked to clarify statements, they don't want to include that because it doesn't suit their narrative. In other words, it ruins their way of persuading. It ruins their persuasion, so they choose to omit it. And this is the lesson right here. When you're trying to persuade somebody, trying to persuade somebody of something that somebody said, and you choose to disregard something that would speak in their favor by deliberately, you are lying, and you're lying by omission. And this is what the news media are doing all the time. This is what so many people are doing all the time. And if you're selling something, if you're selling something on the idea that this man is bad or this person is bad, and you choose to disregard what would otherwise, you know, correct the wrongful impression that you're given of them, then you are by and large lying, because you're lying by omission. So think long and hard about that. That's the persuasion lesson of this video, really. How you can twist somebody's words and viewpoints and make them look bad when they're really not. And yeah, that'll be it. If you want to learn more about persuasion with respect to sales and business and so on, then get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is below the episode description, wherever you're watching and or listening to this. And I'll see you there.